Welcome back to another Pokemon TCG tabletop video. In today's video, I'm at Atlas Collectables, not Kansas this time. I just moved out to Waterloo for school, and so I'm going to be playing here now in addition to the Friday night Kansan League. I wanted to play something a little different, didn't want to keep playing Dragapult, so my friend lent me his Tinkaton EX deck for League today, and this deck just looked awesome. Got the Legacy Energy to turn Tinkaton EX into a one-prizer. We're going to be hitting that big hammer attack, for those of you that don't know. 30 damage for each card in your hand. The Dudunspace draws 3 cards. The Xatu, 2 more. Morty's Hilda. We've got plenty of draw power to go around. 4 rare candies just to get that Tinkaton EX out as quickly as possible. Additionally, the Fan Rotom is going to be how we get out those Dunsparces. And honestly, as this tournament went on, the Sex Engine impressed me more and more. I do have some suggestions to improve the list, which I'll talk about at the end of the video, but for now, let's get into our first game here. Up against my friend Harry, who is usually a Gardevoir player, but this week he decided to spice it up, get a Joltik deck going on here, so we're going to have an interesting matchup. Going into this game, I didn't feel great about my chances. Iron Hand puts on a lot of pressure. This Tinkaton deck can be a little bit slow, and if Ampy very much is able to take a lot of prizes, we could definitely have our work cut out for us. I'm going to start my turn with the Fan Rotom to get out all of the Dunsparces. Then I go for the Great Ball to try and find a Tinkatink, right? So just using the Fan Rotom, take the Dunsparces out of my deck, raise my odds of finding a Tinkatink, but I don't find one. Just go ahead, put down the Natu, and I pass off the turn to Harry, who's just going to be getting that jolting charge off here. Now, the nice thing about these Dunsparces is when I use the Dudunspace's ability to shuffle it into the deck and draw 3, I do get my bench spot back, right? So it's okay for me to bench lock out of Tinkatinks. I can just shuffle away some of these Dunsparces, then I can get the Tinkatink down, and I'm off to the races. Something else to note here is that Dunsparce has a very usable attack, Find a Friend, very helpful. For those of you that watched some of my Archaludon content a couple months ago, you know how good this Find a Friend attack can be. Here I'm just going to go ahead and Hilda, get the Dunsparce out and the Legacy Energy into my hand. We used to see this in Lugia V-Star decks, but here we're going to be seeing it in a much better deck, the Tinkaton EX deck. Just want to get that into my hand now. Even though I don't think I'll put it down yet, I just want to be able to have it in my hand, right? There's only one of them. It's kind of hard to find sometimes, so definitely want it in my hand. And then I realized something cool that I can actually do here is I can find a friend with the Dunsparce with the Legacy Energy, and if Harry knocks it out, great, I got my value. If he doesn't knock it out, I can always shuffle it back with the Dudunsparce, get the energy back, and then try and put it onto a Tinkatink or maybe my Pheasantipity later on. Here goes ahead, uses a boss, and just hits that Ampy very much onto my Xatu. That's pretty annoying, definitely going to set me back. Now, in order to get a Tinkaton EX out next turn, I want to make sure this turn I get down 2 Tinkatinks and a Natu, and then an energy on one of my Tinkatinks. And what that means is that I have 2 Tinkatinks, they can't both be knocked out, I have an energy on one of them, and then I have the Natu. So if I lose my energy, I can accelerate the energy with the Natu. So no matter what, if I get that board up, I should be able to attack next turn, even if Harry has another Boss's Orders, which, I mean, this Joltik deck is definitely quite likely to have another Boss's Orders. And there we go, there's the perfect board. Double Tinkatink, Natu. Get the Dunsparce down, force some more draw power. I leave the Pheasantipity EX in the active here, just to be annoying, force Harry to continue to use Boss's Orders. Ideally, he doesn't find one here, and he has to use Arm Press, and then I get a big advantage in the game, but we do see him find one there. But we're not out of this game yet. It may look bad, but on my next turn, I can get the Tinkaton EX out. I can knock out the Iron Hands. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Tinkaton does only have 300 HP. But if I get the Legacy Energy on it, then if Pikachu knocks me out, Harry would go down to 1 prize. And then how is he getting his last prize card, right? He's probably going to need to find another Boss's Orders. We do have Ionos in our deck. We could potentially kill the Pheasantipity to limit Harry's draw power. Don't count me out of this game yet. Especially considering this turn we're drawing about 20 cards. We have the Legacy Energy in hand. There's 4 rare candies. There's the Tinkaton coming down with the Legacy Energy. Dunsparce drawing us some more cards. I don't know how many cards are in our hand at this point, but this Iron Hands is very, very dead. I would say, I don't even know how many cards. I probably have 15 cards in my hand, to be honest. Another Dunsparce. Poffin brings all the Pokemon back out. Back up Tinkatink for next turn. If our active gets knocked out by Pikachu, we've got one ready to go. Even got the XP share. And what was that? 15 cards, 450 damage, and Iron Hands EX hits the discard pile. So onto Harry's turn here. If he has a Grass Energy for the Pikachu and another Boss's Orders, he could take out my Fizandipity and win the game, but it's kind of hard for him to have that. He's had back-to-back Boss's Orders already. He doesn't have the Grass Energy either. I haven't been paying too much attention to his turns, but it's quite possible if he had the Grass Energy, he would have already put it down here. And so, especially when he starts kind of going a little bit slowly on this turn, realizing he doesn't have it, I also clue in that he doesn't have the Grass Energy and the Boss's Orders to close out the game. Crispin off the Pokegear, that's not going to help him. And so here, we're going to have to see what Harry goes for. But I'm already thinking about my next turn. At this point, I think Harry could knock out my Tinkaton EX, sorry. He could also do something more passive, like pass with the Joltik in the active, or Jolting Charge, I guess. But either way, I think my play next turn is going to be Counter Catcher, Knockout Fezandipity, Iono. Hope Harry can't find the Boss's Orders one more time. And then on the next turn, I can kill Miraidon EX for game with the Boss's Orders, and that'll be my final 2 prizes. So I do have a fairly clear path to victory. I am going to have to rely on Harry not finding the Boss's Orders. He does opt for the more passive play. I think this is better than just launching a Pikachu EX attack into my Tinkaton. He would go down to 1 prize, which is probably actually to his detriment. Then when I Iono'd him, he would just draw less cards, right? And I have, what did I say? I had 15 cards. Of course, I have another Rare Candy and another Tinkaton EX, so knocking out the one in the active, not going to do a whole lot. I really like this Jolting Charge play from Harry. Onto my turn, I'm just going to draw a bunch of cards here. Going to go for the Iono play. I want to make sure I have 7 cards after the Iono, and so that Dunsparce, so I'm going to draw 4 from the Iono, then I'm going to use my Dudunsparce to draw 3. That's going to get me to 7, knocks out this Fezandipity. Then I can also Artisan, get the Dunsparce back down, so that next turn I can draw more cards, find Boss's Orders, and hopefully take out that Miraidon for game. So let's see it, Harry. Are you able to find the game-winning Boss's Orders? He's going to go ahead and check his deck with Artisan, shuffle it. I imagine this means he had some amount of Arven's Boss's Orders in his old hand, right? He wants to shuffle them because he has a Pokegear in his hand. Lots of cards are about to be seen. He is down 2 Boss's Orders. He used them already, but there you see already in the Pokegear, there's the Arven. That's going to find him the Prime Catcher, and that takes out my Fezandipity for a game. So we get a close one here after a rough start against Joltik Box. I was pretty happy with the way the deck performed in this game, given I didn't get the Tinkatink out for a couple of turns. But we're going to start off with a loss. Let's see if we can rally back here. Getting into our second game, we move tables, we switch sides. So sorry if that's a little bit confusing. I'm on the right now, and we're running into a Terabox player in the second round, which is honestly kind of terrifying. We saw how much pressure Iron Hands put on me in the last game. Water Mask Ogerpon probably going to put on even more pressure, the ability to knock out 2 Pokemon at once. Now, the one thing we do have going for us here is that when the Water Pond attacks, it's going to shuffle away all of its energy cards, so Iono is going to be an incredible resource for us. The downside is that our bench space is very valuable. I talked about the double Tinkatink not to setup, right? So you have an energy on the Tinkatink and then you're protected. But here, Andrew can just Torrential Pump, knock out both our Tinkatinks, or he can knock out both of our energies, or he can kill like Natu plus the Tinkatink with the energy. So lots of ways he can really do a lot of damage to our board. So let's go ahead and retreat out into this Fan Rotom, Hilda for a Dudunsparce, and pass off the turn, expecting a Torrential Pump, most likely to take out my Natu. Now here from Andrew, we see a pretty solid turn. He uses Artisan to get another Hoot out, which is a little annoying. I had to give him that value, but what am I going to do? He's going to go ahead and boss up the Dunsparce and double kill them. That's a lot of my draw power hitting the discard pile. I did prize a Dunsparce this game, so I was only able to Fan Rotom for 2. And that is one change I would definitely make to this deck, is to play 4 Dunsparce so that you can always get 3 off the Fan Rotom. Then you can shuffle them back, and you don't need to have them down for the whole game, but it definitely helps at the start to get those Dudunsparces going. Now we get a bit of development here. Fezandipity comes down against Terabox. This card is just so strong. They're never really going to be able to knock it out in the early game, and it's just going to draw a lot of cards. So we also end up getting another energy onto the Fezandipity. This was a very passive play for me. The reason I put the energy on the Fezandipity was if Andrew finds a Noctowl here, he gets Boss and Energy Switch, and then he would just knock out my Xatu and a Tinkatink with an energy. And so I figured if that happened, I wanted to have 2 energies on the Pheasantipede, right? Because he would have to evolve a Hoot Hoot into Noctowl, and then I could use Pheasantipede to take out his other Hoot Hoot, and maybe he would just dead draw, right? So that's why I put these energies on the Pheasantipede. We end up not really getting punished for it here, as Andrew does find the Torrential Pump, but he doesn't kill my Xatu, which would have prevented me from attacking with the Tinkaton EX here. But we do get the Tinkaton EX down. Rare Candy, Tinkatink. Geez, these Pokemon names are all so similar. I wish they were a little more distinct. But anyways, here we develop the board a bit more. Backup Tinkatink coming down, Jet Energies coming into the active, and we're going to see a knockout here. Now, I have a Counter Catcher in my hand, so I'm debating killing other Pokemon, but this is Andrew's only Terra Pokemon, so I feel pretty good just removing it from the board, forcing him to discard a couple of Pokemon, although he's not really going to have to discard anything relevant. And we're just hoping to not see some crazy combination that results in a Pikachu EX knocking out our Tinkaton, which we don't see. We don't see a whole lot. Andrew just kind of fizzled out here and draw passes. We definitely catch a lucky break here. But even if we saw like a Pikachu EX, well, no, if we saw the Pikachu EX, we would lose. But anything else here, any kind of attack, like a Clefairy attack or a Ursaluna attack or something, I could just go Iono to 2, Counter Catcher, Tinkaton, kill something. Basically the same play I did in the last round against Harry. But now our position is just going to get much better. We get the Legacy Energy down onto the Pheasantipede. That's going to protect me from a Blood Moon knockout on the Fez for game. And then I just decided to kill the Clefairy. I think I kind of just arbitrarily picked a 2-prize Pokemon to knock out. And then on the last turn, we're going to follow up with the boss's orders as this Terra deck just kind of falls apart. So we got our first win here. We're going to be 1-1. Let's see how good of a record we can close out with this Tinkaton EX deck. In our third round, we run into an Iron Thorns start, which makes me think this is a Quad Thorns deck, but it's actually a Miraidon deck, and my opponent was just unlucky in that he started Iron Thorns. Going to be blocking his own tandem unit. Pretty annoying for him. I think this matchup is scary for me, but better than Joltik Box. If an early Iron Hands comes down, I'm in a lot of trouble, puts on a lot of pressure, just like the Water Mask Ogerpon as well. However, I think this deck is far less reliable at setting up the Iron Hands as quickly as possible without the Joltik. Of course, the Joltik always going to get the Iron Hands going on the second attacking turn of the game. Here, my opponent has a bit of a slow start, just an energy coming down onto the Thorns. I'm also having a pretty slow start here, so I'm just going to start using Find a Friend. I get the experience share onto the Tinkatink, which is alright. If my Dudunspace goes down, I could potentially rare candy out a Tinkaton next turn and take a knockout. Now, Tinkaton, once Tinkaton is online, it's going to do a lot of damage to this whole deck. There's no Pikachu EX to take it out. It's just going to be that Zekrom, which I believe is 180 plus 50 for each prize I've taken. So if I've taken 3 prizes, is it that strong? I think if I've taken 3 prizes, Zekrom knocks me out. Maybe it's 120 plus 50. I'm not entirely sure. I know if I took 4 prizes, the Zekrom definitely will take me out. But in the early game, my Tinkatons are pretty much unkillable, which is going to be very nice for me. I finally get a pretty solid board going. You see that's super standard. Double Tinkatink, Natu setup. Then I've just got the 2 Dunsparces for draw and the Fanrotom for vibes at this point because he's not doing a whole lot. Maybe he'll get in there for a Assault Landing, I believe is the attack name, but the Assault Landing is actually pretty useful against some of the more evolution-based decks, right? Can take out Budu, can take out Dreepies, Ralts, but not going to see a whole lot of use here. I get the Xatu online. I'm just going to continue my turn, draw more cards, get the Dudunsparce going here. You're not going to see things like the Research or Iono much with this deck. It's going to be a lot of just chaining together these Pokemon to draw cards. Hilda finding more of those evolution cards. And here, we're going to get that first knockout with the Big Hammer. 240 damage, taking out the Iron Hands. Or not the Iron Hands, the Miraidon, sorry. And my opponent is somewhat unprepared for this. He doesn't have a lot of attackers going. Wasn't able to get that Iron Hands out very quickly. And has found himself with a not super strong hand. He tries to power up the Zekrom. Just going to go ahead, pass off the turn. You see that electric generator in his hand. He's just waiting for me to knock something out. And then next turn, he's going to try and KO me with the Zekrom. Oh, he actually does go for the generator. Doesn't find anything there, unfortunately. And he's just going to go ahead and pass off the turn. Back over to me, I'm just going to go ahead and draw a lot of cards. I'd love to find a boss's orders here to take out the Zekrom, but I don't think it's very necessary. Just want to keep my draw power on board at this point with the Dudunspace in case I get Iono'd. Maybe something like Iono plus a 1-prizer attacking could be annoying to me, so get the Dudunspace down, increase my odds of having a boss's orders on the following turn. And my opponent is going to get an attack off, but it's not going to matter as I just close it out with another big hammer, and we pick up a pretty quick win as my opponent is unable to set up the Iron Hands. In round 4, we run into what seems to be my nemesis deck as of late, Gardevoir. Of course, I play a lot of PultDusk, so not super happy to see these Gardevoirs typically, and I think that sentiment is the same with Tinkaton. There's a lot of scary options from this Gardevoir deck. Screamtail is a powerful 1-prize attacker. Gardevoir is a hard to knock out, very bulky 2-prize Pokemon. And of course, there's going to be 4 Ionos in my opponent's deck, resetting my hand size, which is going to make it very, very difficult to pick up big KOs with the big hammer. And of course, we also have to deal with Munkidori potentially healing off some damage and getting free KOs, right? 3 Munkidoris can take out a Dunsparce, 2 can take out a Natu. My Fanrotom's going to be sitting here as essentially a free prize card throughout the whole game for those Munkidoris. So definitely not my favorite matchup to see, but when my opponent has a slow turn 1, not even getting a Ralt into play, I am feeling pretty good about the situation here. I think it's really important in this matchup that I set up this 1-prize Tinkaton to get extra draw power on the board. I'm going to be subject to a lot of Ionos throughout the game, so I'm definitely going to need some consistent draw power, and that Tinkaton should help me with that. Additionally, I'm able to set up the Xatu here, get some extra energies, and get the Tinkatink into play. It's overall a pretty solid setup on my side. No Dunsparces on the board, but definitely can't be complaining when my opponent doesn't have a Ralts yet. We see the first Iono come down, no energy onto the Munkidori. My opponent getting a little greedy here, looking for another Dark Energy. But I think, well, who knows? But definitely risking the potential of not being able to use TM Evo. I think that's his ideal turn here. Just find an energy onto the Munkidori, TM Evo out a Kirlia, and then that way he should be able to get Gardevoir EX on the following turn. We see the Dark Energy come down onto the Munkidori to the bench. So I guess that is one upside of not attaching the Psychic. He gets to put the Dark Energy on the one on the bench, whereas the energy on the active would, of course, just be being knocked out by the Tinkaton. So I guess that makes some sense there. Now here I draw a very strong hand, some multiple Dunsparces, Tinkaton EX, a Psychic Energy, and I decided to just hold all of my draw power on the board. I don't really see a reason to shuffle away these Dunsparces and draw more cards. I'm not really sure what I would even be looking for. I suppose potentially a boss's orders to take out the Ralts, but I think I'd rather save my boss's orders to take out a Gardevoir EX or a Pheasantipede EX, right? There's only 2 boss's orders in the deck. They're going to be hard for me to find. I can't search for them, so... And if I'm just saving my boss's orders, then there's really nothing I need to find here. My bench is full. I suppose I could have shuffled away one of the Dunsparces to make room for a Tinkatink. That could have been okay, but I definitely like this double Dunsparce on the board. I'm going to be drawing a lot of cards next turn. 9 cards. Should find me a boss's orders, hopefully, and we'll have to see. My opponent also whiffs the Candy Guardy here, which is another lucky break for me, which means he's going to be down essentially 3 turns here, right? He's down, 2 prizes, about to be down 3. Let's go ahead and build up a massive hand here, pretty much force my opponent to play an Iono on the following turn. I do have a boss, or I think I whiffed the boss's orders on this turn, actually, and I didn't want to overcommit my Dunsparces, miss the boss's orders again, and then get Iono'd into the ground, so I decided to just take a little disciplined turn again, just knock out the active, hold all the draw power yet again. For those of you that watched my stream match in Pittsburgh, where I was holding all my Dusknoirs, it's kind of a similar concept where it's just a little bit less risky to hold them on the board and go for a more powerful turn later on in the game. Specifically because of Iono, I think in this situation is why it's so important for me to have so much draw power at the end of the game. Now my opponent's off to the races here. We see tons of Psychic Energies hit the discard pile. We're going to be attacked in some capacity, but what attack is my opponent going to go for here? I think he wants to target down my 1-prize Tinkaton, but it has a Legacy Energy on it, so that doesn't seem like a great Pokemon to kill. He'd love to knock out my Tinkaton EX, but I think that has a little bit too much HP, which kind of puts him in this awkward spot where He's got Screamtail, he's got Gardevoir. I think Gardevoir would be a great attacker here. I'm on, well, it's tough for my opponent here because I have odd prizes, which means you kind of want to use 2EX Pokemon, right? Kind of make your opponent take 7 prizes. But here, when I have double Dunsparce and Xatu, it's pretty likely that I'll just be able to knock out the Gardevoir EX. And so that's a little bit worrisome. But I think from his perspective, the best move might have been to just go back-to-back Gardevoir EXs, take out this active Tinkaton. I also like the idea of just like hitting the active Tinkaton for 120 with Screamtail, and then next turn he can take out the Tinkaton and then also take out something else, right? He can take out the Tinkaton with the Munkidori, get a prize card, and then attack like a Xatu or a Dudunsparce on the bench, something like that. But this makes sense too. He's going to load up the Screamtail max damage, and it's all going to come down into my Tinkaton EX, putting it up to 270, so it's going to die to a Munkidori next turn, and I'm definitely afraid because I'm being set up for my Tinkaton EX and my Tinkaton, my one prize Tinkaton, to die in the same turn. And here I've come across games like this before where my Gardevoir opponents put a lot of energies onto their Screamtail or onto a Drifloon. And usually what you want to do here is just go ahead and not kill the Screamtail. I can use a boss's orders just to take out the Mew EX with the Tinkaton. I think I might actually go for the Fez here and kill it with the Tinkaton EX if I remember correctly. I figured my Tinkaton EX was kind of like a dead man walking. 30 HP is going to go down anyways. Might as well put him up into the active, protect my full HP, one prize Tinkaton on the bench here. And then I'm just going to take 2 prizes, go down to 1, and all of my opponent's energy are stuck on the Screamtail, so he's going to have to attack with it. Even if he knocks out my active Tinkaton and my bench Tinkaton, Fan Rotom should be able to come in and take a knockout on the Screamtail. Now, the last thing my opponent could do that could be a little bit annoying is a counter catcher trap, right? Something like counter catcher trap Xatu, Iono to 1, knock out both the Tinkatons, and maybe I just can't really play the game after that. That sounds like reasonably scary, to be honest. Counter catcher onto the Tinkatink, basically the same thing. I'm going to need an energy here in order to attack. Tinkatink does have an attack for 40 damage for 1 energy, so if I draw a Psychic Energy, that should be the game. I think I draw Hilda off of this Iono. Let's go ahead, use the Artisan, double check my energy's actually in there, and then I just go ahead, Hilda for the Psychic, and knock out the Screamtail for game. So definitely a poor start for my opponent and a good start for me, but I think I navigated that one well in what is most certainly not a good matchup. And I did get scary at the end there. If both my Tinkatinks did get knocked out a little bit earlier, then I definitely could have been in some trouble. So we're 3-1 here, going into round 5, our final round of the tournament. We're going to run into a Dragapult Dusknoir. My opponent's playing my deck, and I'm going to see if I can take him down with the Tinkaton. I have to say, I am also fairly concerned about this matchup. I feel like this Tinkaton deck is really strong into decks like Raging Bolt, Goldango, any deck that just attacks the active a lot and doesn't have a lot of spread mechanics, I feel pretty good about. But here, we have 2 things to tackle. One, the Budu is going to be blocking all of our rare candies, making it incredibly difficult for us to get Tinkaton EX out. We're going to have to use our 1 Tinkatink in order to set up. Additionally, Phantom Dive applies a lot of pressure, the ability to knock out potentially multiple of our Tinkatinks and Zatus at once, with the Phantom Dive potentially getting some Dusknoirs involved. I talked about how the Torrential Pump can ruin that Xatu double Tinkatink setup, so can the Phantom Dive. So I'm definitely a little bit concerned in this matchup. Now my opponent is going to be playing a Research. Surely he's getting into the Budu. At least we got that Tinkatink down before the Itchy Pollen came in, so we should be able to get a Tinkaton online. And at this point, I'm trying to think about whether I should go into a Tinkaton EX or I should go into the 1 prize Tinkaton. And I ended up deciding that I want to do the 1 prize Tinkaton. The ability to discard 1 and draw 3 under this item lock seems really strong to me. Although it is important that I set up the Tinkaton EX as well, because now I'm very vulnerable to some Phantom Dives, right? Potentially I could get my Tinkatink and my Xatu knocked out by a Phantom Dive and all of my energies would be gone. So it's definitely a tricky position. I think I like this setup. I need the long-term draw power. Again, this Dragapult Dusknoir deck has 4 Ionos, which is going to be annoying for me to deal with, and I'm going to want to be drawing a lot of cards. Now let's see what kind of combo turn our opponent can put together here. He's got 2 Dusclopses online, the Dracloak, Going to be artisaning out another Dreepy. He's probably looking for just a Dragapult EX and a Psychic Energy. Then he can Dusclops the Xatu, Phantom Dive the Tinkatink and the Xatu, take out all my energies. He knows he won't be getting attacked, and then he'll really be able to take a commanding position in this game. Let's see if he's able to find the pieces he needs here. Going to see the Recon Directive. Additionally, if he blows up one of the Dusclopses, he's going to get an extra bench space. Then Pheasantipede could come onto the board and draw him additional cards. We see it go into the active. I imagine this just means he has a counter catcher in hand. Yeah, I imagine this just means he has a counter catcher in his hand already. We see all the Dracloaks come online, and now we are going to see quite a combination from my opponent. We see the Night Stretcher. I think that's for an energy, or potentially the Dragapult EX. The energy is in his hand already. He's got the counter catcher as well, and that means that Xatu and Tinkatink are going to be going down, and we're going to be definitely on the back foot. So what do we do here? How do we reestablish? Well, we're going to need to get down another Xatu. We're going to need another Tinkatink, and we're definitely going to need an energy on one of those Tinkatinks. Additionally, I could rare candy this Tinkatink into a Tinkaton and put an energy on it. That way, it can't get knocked out by a Phantom Dive. It would have to be brought up into the active position. So we're going to go ahead and start off our turn by drawing a bunch of cards, see what resources we have access to, and then I'll be able to make my decisions. The Poffin's going to help me reestablish the board here. We're going to get an extra Tinkatink and a Dunsparce. I believe my second Xatu is prized here, which is a little bit unfortunate. Also, Xatu only has 50 HP, which makes it a huge target for Phantom Dive, which is going to come up later on in this game. But we're going to be on the plan of rare candying out the Tinkaton. The deck also only plays one Super Odd, which I was unable to find there. I did draw a lot of cards, but just not quite able to do it. Going to fill up the board with the Dunsparces. They can always get shuffled away next turn. Got my Tinkaton with the energy. I'm feeling decently stable here. Of course, I could get knocked out by something like a Dusknoir and a counter catcher onto the Tinkaton EX, and then I would be in a lot of trouble. And my opponent does have the access to Recon Directive, which I've talked about many, many times how much I love Recon Directive in this format. Just allows him to do what he wants every turn of the game. This is a Tinkaton video, but I feel like I gotta glaze this Dragapult deck a little bit. It's gotta be one of my favorite decks in a while. Nothing compared to like Mew VMAX or Refinement Curlia, though. Those draw engines were absolutely incredible. So there's the Dusknoir. That's going to be going down into the Tinkaton EX. My opponent's just taking a sec to think about it. I'm not sure what other options he might be debating. Perhaps just debating killing like all my Dunsparces, or maybe killing my one prize Tinkaton. I'm not entirely sure, but on my next turn, I'm going to have to piece something together. So Tinkaton EX is going down. 6 damage counters are coming onto my board. My opponent's going to go down to 2 prizes, and I'm going to have to figure something out. So kind of what I think about is I can use Fan Rotom to kill Hawlucha, and that'll put me down to 2 prizes. And then on the following turn, if I can take a big 2-prize KO, I would win the game. And so here I'm thinking I could rare candy Tinkaton so that my Tinkatink doesn't die to Phantom Dive. I could put down a Xatu, and then I could kill the Hawlucha with a Legacy Energy Fan Rotom. So the Fan Rotom will give up 0 prizes, and then I can play an Iono. Now, this is actually a misplay, and I had a really good play here that I didn't see. What I was supposed to do here, the problem is that Xatu only has 50 HP, so if I attack with the Fan Rotom and put down the Xatu, my opponent's just going to kill the Fan Rotom and the Xatu, and even though the Fan Rotom has Legacy Energy and he'll only take 1 prize, I won't be able to get 2 energies onto a Tinkaton EX on the following turn. And so what I needed to do here was not put down any Xatus, attack with the Fan Rotom, but instead of using the Legacy Energy on the Fan Rotom, I need to use a basic Psychic Energy so that I can then put Experience Share on my Tinkaton EX. And then when the Fan Rotom goes down, I get the energy, I can attach another one, and I can take out a 2-prizer to close out the game. But I don't see the vision here. I'm a little bit of a Tinkaton rookie, and so I'm going to end up going for the Legacy Energy on the Fan Rotom. I'm putting back all the pieces for the Xatu. At this point, I'm pretty convinced that the Xatu, has 70 HP, and so I think it's going to be able to survive the turn, and then I'm going to use it to attack with Tinkaton on the next turn, but that is simply not the case. And at this point, when I pop in for the Natu, I now realize it has only 50 HP, but at this point, I am committed. The experience share comes down. It's not going to matter because I'm using the Legacy energy and not the basic Psychic energy that I need to be using. But we're going to go down to 2 prizes, and it's not going to matter because my opponent's going to close out the game with the boss's orders anyways. That's going to go ahead and kill a Dudunspace and a Natu. So I definitely should not have put down that Natu. Should have gone for the basic Psychic energy. Made a bit of a mistake here, but it's all good. We're going to close out a 3-2 record at Atlas League. Let me know if you guys enjoy this kind of gameplay with a little bit of a more off-meta deck. I think I'll continue making these at Atlas while continuing to make some more competitive content at Kansan, where there are a lot of competitive players. As far as the list goes, I think I would only make 2 changes. I would take out a 1-1 Xatu line to get a fourth Dudunspace and another Artisan into the deck. I think getting 3 Dudunspaces on turn 1 with the Fan Rotom is really, really important. And when you prize one, it's really annoying. So having 4 of them would be a big improvement. And then Artisan, just an incredible card for the deck, being able to get your Dudunspaces back for free turn after turn without using cards from your hand. Definitely very powerful. So with that in mind, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below if you enjoyed the video or if you play this Tinkaton deck to your locals. Let me know how it goes. And other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.